All right. So we are looking for Elder Moses now, and Sister Shorter is going to introduce Elder Moses, Brother Moses.
Okay. Brother Moses Schrock is a former Amish, and that alone tells you a lot about him. He's a hard worker. He and his family, his wife, his daughter, and his sons prepare the meals for our camp meeting every year. And I believe, as well as many others, they are some of the best cooks, if not the best cooks in the Northwest. And in fact, his wife is catering a wedding even now. So Brother Moses Schrock is a humble man. He's knowledgeable, hardworking, and he's well-versed, as you will see in this talk, about how to live without electricity, cars, and phones, and more. He will cover everything from A to Z. So without further ado, Brother Moses Schrock, the time is yours.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
we can.
Good afternoon to you all. It might be evening for some of you, but at my location, it's 3:15. So let me have a word of prayer before we get started. Father in heaven, I do not want to try to present this message without you being in the midst of it all. Lord, I'm very concerned for our people, greatly concerned. I'm fearful for them. Lord, help me to present this message in a manner of a way that would touch many hearts and that people would recognize maybe the seriousness of time that we're living in. And I ask this in the name of your dear son, Jesus. Amen. You know, I want to look at a Bible verse. Just a second here. A couple Bible verses. Going back to Jeremiah, I want to compare with what was going on in Jeremiah to our day to a certain degree. Let's turn to Jeremiah chapter 39, verse 7. It says this: we know that the Babylon had come and taken Nebuchadnezzar the king of Babylon had come and taken captive all the Jews of Israel, excepting a few that were left over, in the poor ones, along with Jeremiah. Now it says 39, verse 7. Moreover, he put out Zedekiah's eyes and bound him with chains to carry him to Babylon. And the Chaldeans burned the king's house and the houses of the people with fire and break down the walls of Jerusalem. Then Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, carried away captive into Babylon the remnant of the people that remained in the city. Those that were living in the city were all carried away. So you keep track, remember this. And those that fell away, that fell to him, with the rest of the people that remained. But Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, left the poor of the people, which had nothing in the land. These are people that were living on the land of Judah, and gave them vineyards and fields at the same time. Now we'll skip down lower, the next chapter, 2 chapters later, chapter 42, starting in verse 1. Then all the captains of the forces of Johanan, the son of Kareah, the Jezaniah, the son of Hoshea, and all the people from the least even unto the greatest. There's a lot of things that happen in these chapters, but here we see something going on. And said unto Jeremiah the prophet, these people were the top men, they said unto Jeremiah the prophet, let we beseech thee, our supplications be accepted before thee, and pray for us unto the Lord thy God. Here they said, they didn't even accept it as their God, or at least they didn't mention it. It said, your Lord thy God, even for all this remnant, for we are left but a few of many, and this as thine eyes do behold us. So apparently there were not many left anymore. That the Lord thy God may show us the way wherein we may walk, and the thing that we may do. We also have a prophet, and our prophet has given us much information. Then Jeremiah the prophet said unto them, I have heard you. Behold, I will pray unto the Lord your God according to your words, and it shall come to pass that whatsoever thing the Lord shall answer you, I will declare it unto you. I will keep nothing back from you. Here we see that the people had asked God what we should do. Some wanted to go to Egypt, and other areas and things were going on. So he said, I will tell you everything, keep nothing back. Then they said to Jeremiah, the Lord be a true and faithful witness between us, if we do not according to all the things for the which the Lord thy God shall send thee to us, whether it be good or whether it be evil, we will obey the voice of the Lord. Doesn't matter what the Lord tells us, even if we don't agree with him, we'll still do it. Now they call it the Lord our God, to whom we send thee, that it may be well with us when we obey the voice of the Lord our God. I accept him as God again. And it came to pass after 10 days that the word of the Lord came unto Jeremiah. Now then called he the leaders again, and let's go to verse 9, 42:9. He said unto them, thus saith the Lord, the God of Israel, unto whom ye sent me to present your supplications before him. If ye will still abide in this land, then I will build you and not pull you down, and I will plant you and not pluck you up. For I repent me of the evil things that I've done unto you. The Lord said, okay, I'm sorry for what has happened. I'll take care of you. Just stay here. Now let's go down to chapter 43. Now let's see what the people said. Or one of the leaders struck out and said something, and then we'll see what the people said. Chapter 43 and verse 1. And it came to pass that when Jeremiah had made an end of speaking unto all the people, all the words of the Lord their God, for which the Lord their God had sent him to them, even all these words. Then spake Azariah, the son of Hoshea, and Johanan, the son of Kareah, and all the proud men, saying unto Jeremiah, thou speakest falsely. The Lord our God hath not sent thee to say, go not into Egypt to sojourn there. But Baruch, the son of Neriah, setteth thee on edge against us, for to deliver us into the hand of the Chaldeans, that they might put us to death and carry us away captive into Babylon. So Johanan and the son of Kareah and all the captains of forces and all the people obeyed not the voice of the Lord to dwell in the land of Judah. And we all know the end of the story. They ended up going to, if you want to read it, go ahead and read, continue on reading chapter 43 of Jeremiah and onward. The people ended up going to Egypt, and exactly what the Lord had told them what happened did happen. So now let's get to our day. Do we have a prophet that has also told us things?
Yes.
Yes, we do. Oh, come on. Okay, here. So this is my title of my speech, not if, but when. Everything comes to an halt as we are used to. What then? What's going to happen then? Let's look at a couple of quotes, and then we'll get into how we used to live. This really talks greatly to me. I'm troubled with what I see. And this says, to the parents who are living in the cities, the Lord is sending the warning cry, gather your children into your own houses, gather them away from those who are disregarding the commandments of God, who are teaching and practicing evil. Get out of the cities as fast as possible. Have our people listen to that call? There are a lot that have, and I praise God that they have. But I know many that have not, and I'm very concerned about them. Parents can secure what kind of homes? Small homes in the country. We don't have to have big fancy houses with land for cultivation, where they can have orchards and where they can raise vegetables and small fruits to take the place of flesh meat, which is so corrupting to the lifeblood coursing through their veins. This is, of course, found in Counsels on Diet and Foods, page 400, paragraph 1. Another quote, again and again, the Lord has instructed that our people are to take their families away from the cities into the country where they can raise their own provisions. For in the future, the problem of buying and selling will be a very serious one. So why are we to go into the country? So we can raise our own provisions. And I'm so thankful for all those that have been out there. As Kim was talking here a few minutes ago, I was down at their house a month or so ago, and I was just happy to see how many people are living in the country. And doing the things that need to be done. It says, for in the future, the problem of buying and selling will be a very serious one. We should now begin to heed the instruction given us over and over again. Get out of the cities into rural districts where the houses are not crowded closely together and where you will be free from the interference of enemies. Continue on. It's kind of the same quote as the last one, but a little bit of different wording. The time is fast coming when the controlling power of the labor unions will be very oppressive again. Again and again, the Lord has instructed that our people are to take their families away from the cities into the country. I ask, why should we go into the country where they can raise their own provisions? Why would we want to raise our own provisions? For in the future, the problem of buying and selling will be a very serious one. We should now begin to heed the instruction given us over and over again. Get out of the cities into the rural districts where the houses are not crowded closely together and where you will be free from the interference of enemies. Very similar. I never lived in the city. We always lived in the country. I would not want to live in the city. I go in there sometimes to buy food and so forth, but I'm so thankful that I can come home to my humble dwelling. Those who have been to our house know it's a very humble thing, but it serves our purpose. And we're happy there. Here's another quote. The trade unions and confederacies of the world are a snare. Keep out of them and away from them, brethren. Have nothing to do with them. Because of these unions and confederacy, it will soon be very difficult for our institutions to carry on their work in the cities. My warning is keep out of the cities. She goes on, I'm going to skip further down to the next underline. This is found in Country Living, page 11:1. But ere long, there will be such strife and confusion in the cities that those who wish to leave them will not be able. Brothers and sisters, I am very fearful that we are very close to that. Very fearful. Everything that's going on. And she says, we must be preparing for these issues. This is the light that's given me. This was written April 6, 1903. Now, please, I'm not putting a prophecy on this. Please don't even consider this. But look at the date. We know that Noah was given 120 years to build the ark. Please, I'm not saying that I know that next year is going to be 120 years. I'm not saying that that's going to be the end of that you'll be not able to get out of the cities after that. I do not know when that time will come. But next year will be 120 years that was written. And she go back again to reread that. That those who wish to leave the city, leave them, will not be able. There are many quotes where she talks about, or I shouldn't say many, but several quotes where she talks about that those that remain in the city will suffer with the people that are in the city. So I don't understand. Here we have the writings. I just don't understand why so many are still in the cities. I know it's hard to get out. We've been trying to help people get out. We've helped people that are getting out. And our family has helped many people throughout the years, try to encourage them to how to get more simple and so forth. One more quote here, and then we'll go into how to live without. If the poor now crowded in the cities could find homes upon the land, they might not only learn a livelihood, but find health and happiness now unknown to them. Wait a minute. You think you're healthy and happy in the cities? She says we would have health and happiness unknown to them if they only would get out and a livelihood, get out in the country. Hard work, simple fare, close economy, often hardship and privation would be their lot. All of you that have gone to the country, I believe you'd all say amen to that, because you know exactly how hard it is to out in the country. You won't be wealthy. Not if you try to raise farming and gardening and so forth. You may be able to be out of debt, but that may be about it. You maybe have enough money and time to help others, but don't think you're going to be rich. But look at what she says. Starting over. If the poor now crowding the cities could find homes upon the land, they might not only learn a livelihood, but find health and happiness. Now, it all depends what your motive is to go into the country for. If you're only going there to save your skin, and that's all your motive is, you won't find health and happiness there. But if you're going there to work the soil, communicate with God, and find you will either get upset, you will either get angry because of the hard work, the simple fare, and the close economy. You get very discouraged, or you can look at it in the light of, this is a blessing. I am encouraged by it. I love it. I am doing what the Lord asked me to do. And again, do not try to go in the country without praying, talking about it, and asking God where to go. We have a lot of people in our area that are not Adventists that have moved from the city to the country because they have told me that God told them they need to move. And they had various different reasons why, but almost everybody says because the cities are evil, they're wicked, and God's judgments are going to fall upon them. The Lord showed me that his judgments will fall upon the cities. These are non-Adventists. We have a lot of people that we're friends with that are not Adventists that have come to the country. I feel like a lot of those people are running ahead of our own people, which troubles my heart. It really troubles my heart. And I'm just going to share something with you. We have a sister and her son that moved in the area. They came a little bit on the late side, but they're in the country. The snow is coming and they got scared because they haven't been used. They're not very prepared yet. Some of us got together and built a cabin for her, but they're scared because they don't have any experience and the hardships yet. So we're going to help them. They're going to move on into our property in a little living place there for the winter. We're going to try to help them out. So we're here to help one another. But what a blessing, going back to reading, but what a blessing would be theirs in leaving the city with its enticements to evil, its turmoil and crime, misery and foulness, for the country's quiet and peace and purity. It's just no comparison. Okay. The first question I always usually ask people, well, I'm going to go to the country. Well, when everything goes upside down, then I'm going to run to the country. And my question to them is, how will you stay warm and cook food? Some would say, well, then I'll go get a stove. Well, my question is, where? When that time comes, the economy goes down, you will not buy a stove. And I'm just going to have to warn you that there is a brother that I communicate with and work with through some for getting stoves and pumps and so forth. It's Stoves and More LLC. And I was looking to get a pump, just a pump. And something went wrong. And anyway, he told me that right now the weight on stoves, I'm going to show you the stove, the type of stoves that we're looking at. This is combination cooking and heating stove. He said these stoves are over a year out, and the people that are building them are having difficulty getting the material to build them. He said if you order one today, you'd be over a year out before you could get it. So brothers and sisters, how are you quickly going to run and get a stove? You might be able to find one in a garage sale or put an ad out in various different magazines or Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. You might be able to find a heating stove, but you probably won't be able to find a cooking stove. Not something nice anyway. So if you want to get one of those, we're already running late. And I'm very thankful for everybody that already has them. Now, my question is, going back, do you have wood? A lot of people are living in the country, and I've been sharing this. I'm starting to run into something that bothers me a lot. Oh, well, no, we still don't have wood, but we got our stove out in the garage. We can quickly set it up. My question is then, well, do you have a chimney there? No, not yet, but we'll quickly go get one. Wait a minute. You're not going to go get a chimney when the economy goes down and crashes. You need to consider having this all set up, even though you might not be using it. Consider having it ready to go. And then the question is, how does it work? How does this stove work? Well, to your left there, where the shiny little 3 things are, that's a vent that you open up and it lets air in once it's full of wood and lit. And then the stove starts getting hot. Well, directly above the fire, the stove is the hottest. Some of you have wood stoves and you know exactly what I'm talking about. So you put your kettle on there, and all of a sudden your kettle is boiling, the stove is really hot. It's not like this stove where you can turn a knob and it cools off quickly. This stove, once that metal is hot, will stay hot for a long time. So now what are you going to do if your kettle's boiling over? Well, what you do, this is what, that's all I knew. That's all we ever had until about 15 years ago, about 12 years ago. No, it's not that long. It's more like 8 years ago that we ended up getting propane stove. You slide your kettle towards the right hand of this stove. The further you go, the cooler it gets. It will be hot. It may be too hot to touch, but you figure out, you just slide the kettle a little bit and a little bit till it's just a simmer. If you want to simmer, or if you want to just hold it hot, you slide it almost all the way to the end, it'll hold it hot. In the same way, when you bake, this stove, you've pushed the heat to get it hot. All of a sudden, this oven has reached its temperature. If you see the picture there, there's a little gauge there that tells you how hot this oven is. Now, all of a sudden, you put your bread in there or whatever you're baking. Well, you've got this fire going, a lot of red coals in there. This stove continues heating. What do you do? Well, you crack the oven door just a little bit, and you got to keep an eye on it. It's not as simple as turning a knob like this stove. It's not at all. That'll keep uniform. You have to stay with it. You have to watch it. If you don't, you're going to burn your food, or it's not going to be cooked properly. So it is a very serious learning curve that you don't know about if you haven't ever used it. You really, really need to understand how it works. You will not learn this overnight. You will not move out of the city and in a week know how to do all this. It just doesn't work that way. So that's why we need to be moving to the country and starting to work with this. Now, this stove may work for a while. That's as long as you have propane. Once the propane is gone, this stove you might as well throw it in the dump. It doesn't do you more good than that. Now here is a tutorial on maintaining and using a wood cook stove. That wood cook stoves, HTTPS. This was actually done in our local area here by one of our Adventist brothers and sisters. We know them very well. This is out on, you can go on here, it'll tell you how to keep the stove nice and shiny and clean. It will tell you how some of the things that I told you. It's a very similar, it's the same company. This is the one I pictured as a Kitchen Queen. This was done on a Pioneer Princess, which is made by the same company. They did a very, very good job, very good job. They learned a lot by trial and error, and they weren't able to find anything, but I think there's more out there today now where you can go on. Also lower here, there's Stoves and More LLC. You can go on there, and he also gives you tutorials how to maintain and where to use a stove. And they're very good people. They're Daniel and Susan Dreyer, I believe is their name. I know it's Daniel and Susan, but so anyway. Now, you got a lot of food in your refrigerator, and the power has gone out, and it won't be coming on for a while. So what are you going to do? How will you keep the food from spoiling in the fridge? How are you going to do that? What are you going to do about it? You only got a few days till that food starts spoiling. Some would say, well, I'll use my generator. But how long will your generator last? How long will you have gas? Where will you get gas? How about some other options? Canning and drying, etc. Have you ever planted a garden? Do you have a garden? You will not be able to, if you go out and dig up a fresh garden, a place where there was never a garden before, it usually does not do well the first year, or not very well. You got all these clumps of sod and roots and stuff in there. And you're going to be hard pressed to get much out of a garden the first year. I mean, you get some. Then if you even have a garden spot, do you have seeds? You need to get seeds, because you will need those seeds to put it in the garden. Another question, how long will your food last that you have on hand? Say your refrigerator, the food in your hand. How long will it last? How do you buy food when the stores don't have food? Do you buy in bulk or small packages? Did you know that you can save money if you bought in bulk? Also, less trips to the store. You could save on gas and money as well. Here at the bottom, I just put down a 20-pound bag of rice currently is approximately $21.64. If you just buy a 32 ounce of, this is just one product, you can buy beans and everything in bulk. We do it, that's the way we do it. A 32-ounce brown rice, also brown the same, is about $4.64. It takes 10 of these to make up a 20-pound bag. Where here the 20-pound bag would cost you $21. If you buy it in small quantities, you do the math, you're going to have over $46 spent where you could have bought, it's more than twice as expensive buying in small quantities. Now I'm going to pause and give you a story. We all know that COVID came and hit. Now it was different in different areas, but here in our local area, here in Spokane, the stores had long lines outside them because they only could allow so many people in. In the morning, they let the elderly in. Then once that was done, maybe 10 o'clock, I'm not sure what time it was, then other people could come in. They had lines, a couple hundred people, maybe 300-400 people in those lines sometimes, long lines. People stood there for over 2 hours. Sometimes they finally were even able to get into the store. One of our Adventist brethren, I went to his house during this time and just checking up, see how they're doing. And he told me, hey, what was your experience in town when you went to buy food? I said, I didn't go to town yet. He says, what? This was like 2 months into it. He says, no, I hadn't gone to town yet. He says, how's that possible? I mean, didn't you run out of food? This brother has a large garden, has an orchard and everything. And I was actually very surprised that he had ran into this problem. So I realized after that our people, even though a lot of our people have farms, they have gardens and things, they are not ready for a crash. They're absolutely not ready. That's very concerning to me. He said, well, didn't you run out of food? I says, no, we didn't run out of food. He said, how's that possible? I said, well, I grew up, my parents would go to town once a month at the most. Many times it'd be every other month. He says, how's it? Well, how could they do this? I says, well, if we needed to buy something, we'd buy in bulk. We bought the large quantities. It's so much cheaper. Well, how do you keep it from spoiling? Well, as of this time, I'm just going to tell you all, right now, you can still go on YouTube. You can go on media. You can find how to store food and keep it good. We always kept ours in 5-gallon bags just in case a mouse got into the storage where we had our pantry or whatever, so they wouldn't destroy it. Now, one thing you can do, rice does not keep as well very long, but beans keep forever, and lentils and a lot of those things, legumes keep very well in just plastic bags, put a tight lid on them. I know in the South, there's more of a problem with bugs, but the little bugs that get into it. But here we have very little problems. Here up in the north, it gets cold in the winter, they all freeze out. We just hardly have any problems. But one thing you can do for rice and some of those things is fill your bucket almost to the top. If you have a Mylar bag, you can. If you don't have to. Put a tight lid on that will seal. Put one of those little round candles that are just short little candles. Put them in there and light it. Put the lid on, snap it on tight. That little candle will burn all the oxygen in there, and that'll keep your food from spoiling as fast. You have much longer shelf life. Here's another way, another thing that you can do. You can actually take your fruits and vegetables, that's in your fridge, that is if you have canning jars. You can put it in there rather than let it spoil and can it, and it will keep for a very long time. 20 years easy. I would recommend that you keep it in a dark room, more or less climate controlled. It doesn't have to be, but 50 degrees, 40 degrees, 45 degrees, anywhere in that area, it keeps the best. A dry area. If you have a damp area, then your lids will eventually start getting a little rust on them, and then they'll start corroding through, and after a long enough period of time, they will actually end up unsealing. But as long as that little dot on the top is down, your food is good. But when it pops open, then your food is gone. You have to throw it. And I don't have much time to go through on how canning, that we'd have to take another time to do that, but there are tutorials out there. You can also find them, and I'm sure there's plenty of you that have been on this classes that have been leading out could tell you how to can and so forth. Here's another picture of dried fruits. You can dry fruits, slice them thin. Say all of a sudden you get caught and the power is going out and you don't know if it's going to come back in. You have a wood stove, or if it's in the summer, your electric food dehydrator will no longer work. Just go outside, pull the screen off of your window. Put some hooks in the ceiling, lower it close to the stove, depends how hot your stove is. a foot or so above the stove. Put your fruits on there, slice them thin, your vegetables, slice them thin. If you have a cheesecloth, put a cheesecloth over it so the flies don't get in. In the winter, you don't have to worry about flies, but maybe dust from the woods, so forth. Or lay another screen on top. You have a good drying rack, it works perfect. You don't have to have these fancy drying racks. Just use your screens, which you won't need them in the winter anyway. Here's some vegetables. You also can dry them well. You just hydrate it. So don't let your food spoil in the fridge if you run into this problem. Start thinking about it. You may not be able to get food very easily or it's going to be extremely expensive. Here's a quote that a lot of people say that, oh, we're not to hoard. No, we're not to hoard. But here we find what Sister White says. I'm going to read the very last part of this quote. It says, talking about Sister Nels is very faithful. She has already canned 138 quarts of tomatoes, 60 quarts of loganberries, 75 quarts of applesauce, besides cherries, peaches, and apricots. We hope to have 200 quarts of tomatoes put up. We have nearly a bushel of sweet corn dry and have sweet corn on the table nearly every day for 3 weeks. So, I see that dry is spelled wrong, but Sister White, in her day, she talked about hoarding. She talks about not storing up food, too much food, because the bugs will get it. But Sister White lived in the area, and she lived like we as Amish lived. We raised our food in the garden, put it away in the winter. We had at least a year's food on hand. We still do. It's just the way we are. It's the way we've been born and raised. That is not hoarding. If you take time and look up hoarding and follow through, what I have found is when you put food away with the intention, it is yours only, even if somebody comes and is very hungry, even though they could have put away food and didn't, we're still to help them out. That is what I find as hoarding in her writings and also in the dictionary. When you put food away with the intention of not giving it to nobody else, but it's for your own benefit, for your own good. Now you might say, well, how am I going to get to town to get groceries or go to see our friends, our family, our children, and so forth? That is a really good question. How will you do that? This is what I used to do. It's not that long ago that we've been driving those yet. But I've heard many people say, oh, we're going to get a horse. Well, first off, you won't get a horse if you wait till the time is crashed down. Number two, do you even know how to take care of a horse? Or do you know how to harness a horse or saddle a horse? Do you have a harness? Do you have a saddle, or do you have a carriage? You know, a horse can be dead weight to you. If you don't, I would not recommend you getting a horse for transportation. But if you need a horse, the only time I would recommend you needing a horse is if you're going to use it to till the soil. You can do a lot more tilling with a horse. But if you just want it for transportation, this was us too. I mean, we used to drive that. Still got those carriages. Both of these carriages we got. These are not ours. They're just pictures of like ours. We still got those. So what are you going to feed the horse? You know that this horse in our area will need at least 2 tons of hay. And then if you need 2 tons of hay, are you going to get hay because nobody's going to be able to even cut it and take care of it? This is how we cut our hay. This is the way we did it. Takes 2 horses to do that. This is how we collected the hay, loaded it up. It's a lot of work. We worked very hard. We did not have any time to play, or we had no desire to watch TV. We didn't have it anyway. So now the question is, how will you get around if you don't have a horse then? Well, how about a bicycle? Probably laugh about this, but this is an old bicycle. I wouldn't recommend getting this. Let's look about a newer one. This is what I would recommend. Something with a rack on the front, maybe a little something on the back. You can go just as far once you build up your strength on a bicycle as a horse can take you in a day. Pretty much the same distance. Don't get a road bike like this. Get a mountain bike, something that's got good tough tires that you can go over rocks and so forth, and they're not punctured quickly. I remember reading Corrie ten Boom's book in her day when the automobiles didn't work no more, everybody biked. Their tires wore out and they couldn't get tires. So what they did, they wrapped it with cloth to keep the noise down. What about your toilet? Ooh, your toilet and your shower. When the water doesn't come, the power has quit. Some people have solar, which is a great thing. But right now, we just came over a period of time, we're about 3 weeks where we did not have sun. Our battery power was almost completely gone. We had to run the generator several days to keep us up. So when that time comes, I'm not worried about it. We'll just use very minimal solar and we'll live without it. I'm not worried about it because we can live without it. We know how to live without it. But your toilet doesn't flush. What are you going to do? Now, if you have a gravity system and a gravity septic system, you can carry the water from the creek or wherever you can get it and flush your toilet, and you'll just be fine. You can use your bathtub as a oh, that looks good, doesn't it? You got this well. How are you going to get water out of it? But you can use your bathtub. Here, I put a picture. This is what we used to use as a bathtub. Of course, if you have a regular bathtub, now you have a shower, you're going to be in trouble. You can use a spit bath. You can use a 5-gallon bucket with warm water and just wash yourself like with a cloth. But these are some of they're well. There's lots and lots of water down there, but how are you going to get it out? How are you going to get it out of there? 6-inch hole, you might be able to see the water, but how are you going to get it out? You got a problem. When that electricity goes out, that water will not come from there no more. Have you ever used one of these? An outhouse. They do smell a little funny. What you smell is methane gas building up. And that's what we had. We lived with that house. We were happy and were satisfied with it. We used it a long time, even after we embraced the Sabbath. People came to our house and that's all we had. They weren't very fond of it, but they either used it or they didn't use it. That's what it looked like on the inside. Nothing wrong with that. You can get by with that, or if you don't have one of these, you can go out and dig a hole in the ground, use a 5-gallon bucket. When you go in the morning, once a day or whatever, a couple times a day, dig it out and dump it in the hole. You should dig it about 4 feet deep. It will actually start acting like a septic system and it'll break down and the water will soak into the ground. And you can use that hole for a long time. If it finally fills up, cover it up, go dig another one. You can use, depending how many people you can use that for a couple of years. We carried our water all into the house. We put that tub, we didn't do it on the outside like this picture, but we put it inside in the house alongside the living room stove. At least in the winter when it was cold, we heated the water on the stove with a kettle. We carried a bucket of cold water, dumped it in there, and enough hot water to keep it warm, and would put some kind of divider in the room or hung a blanket upon hooks on the ceiling, on the wall ceiling, and everybody knew not to go in the area when somebody was bathing. It worked well. You didn't have a problem. How about a hand pump? That's what I grew up with. That's all I knew was hand pump. We of course had a windmill over ours because we had like 15 horses and about 30 head of cattle. So the windmill pumped that water and it just kept pumping and pumping. It served us well. And we pumped sometimes for our own house use and carried it in buckets similar to that. That's the way we got our water to the house, was by buckets like that. Now here's a stainless steel deep well pump. Here is the problem that we're running into. One of our brothers at the church wanted me to install a pump, so I went and I tried to find a pump and I can't find one, at least not quickly. I called up Stoves and More LLC, and he said, these are at least. Now that I got a phone number down here, you can call that number. This is actually Layman's. It's a company that the Amish use a lot. It's got a lot of Amish tools and a lot of Amish stuff. I called them. They told me, well, you got to talk to our installer. He'll call you back. I waited and I waited. Finally, 2.5 weeks later, I call again. I said, he never got back to me. He says, well, probably he's unable to get a pump then. That's probably why I didn't call. I said, well, I wish you'd have told me. So I'd start looking. He said, well, I guess we should have, but we didn't. So I called Stoves and More LLC, and I talked with Daniel. He's a busy man. It's hard to get in touch with him. So anyway, he said he cannot find any pumps. They are all over 15 weeks out. He's not even sure that we can get them anymore. Now, this particular pump will slide alongside. You can leave your existing pump in the well. It's a skinny, small pump. It will slide alongside your existing pump and go down into the water, and you can pump water by hand while you still have your other pump. Your other pump goes out, you just go out and pump the handle and you get water. I've installed a number of these. Now, this is something that works well. Kim and her husband, Ernie, they have one of these, similar to this. It's a bigger tank than this. As long as the sun shines, these work well. As soon as the sun hits that solar panel, that pump kicks in gear and it'll fill your tank. Then you can use out of this tank. I would, if you have the money and the means and where the sun shines, I would recommend getting one of these. Just have it going. You can open a valve at the bottom, get water out of there. And if you have solar on your house, you can put a lift pump from this and pressurize your house. That's kind of what we got. We got a pressurized, we got water flowing into our basement from a very, very strong spring. And then we just lift it up with a solar pump, pressurizes our system. So this works really well. Why do the lights go out? Well, I got candles. I got kerosene lamps. Well, that's good. Do you know how to use them? That's not good if you don't. They can be dangerous. They can burn your house down. Be very careful with these. Learn how to use them. You need to keep that wick trimmed. Well, how do you trim the wick? On top of where the fire burns, there is the wick absorbs the kerosene, and then you light it, and the upper edge of that, after a period of time, gets a little crusty. Now, you need to at least once a week, or after, I'd say after about 5-6 hours, you need to break that crust off, trim it, get it clean, then relight it. If you don't, you will be turning it higher and higher because that crust doesn't let it burn and wick properly. All of a sudden, it doesn't do anything but smoking, and you might turn it down. This is where it's become so dangerous. If you don't keep it clean and you turn it down, the fire can go into the bowl underneath and can explode. Now you got kerosene with fire exploded in your room, and you can have a house fire. Never, ever turn the light out with a knob. You see it on movies. No, that's not the way you turn the light out. Do not turn the knob and put the fire out that way. You're asking for trouble. I can't stress it enough. Do not turn the light out. You might be able to get by with for a while, but eventually, if it gets crusty enough, you can get fire caught in the bottom. Do not turn the light out that way. Just leave it set where it is, blow into the top, it goes out really easy. Just a little poof and it's out. That's the way you put these lights out. The little lantern over here on the side with the handle on it, they got a little lever that you lift to light. Lift that lever and just blow in there, poof, and it's out. It's really easy. Do not turn them out. It's dangerous. I got to stress it very much. Do not. We used to buy kerosene. We bought in the fall, we would usually buy 5 gallons of kerosene. We never used 5 gallons of kerosene in a year. And that's all we used for lighting. It's actually fairly cheap. So what do you do how do you communicate when your phones don't work? Well, you walk, you run, and bicycle, you come up with ideas. Your car isn't going to go when there's no gas. You know, in the morning, you might get up, the first thing you do, you get on your phone, but how will you survive without Facebook, TikTok, and you name all the rest of them, all the rest of the media? Most people get up this way. I don't like to get up this way. I like to leave that off to the side, even if I hear a text coming in. Now, if there's a phone call, I might go pick it up. I want to spend time with my Lord and Savior in His Word before I pick that up. Picking that up may trigger your day to be a miserable day. You might get a text or something that is very discouraging. You can go have worship afterwards, but it's not going to be the same. But if you have your worship first, you probably in your worship will be prepared to whatever has come. Then you can go look at it, and you will not, the Lord will be at your side, and it will not be miserable for you. So if that thing doesn't work, how about doing this? Getting in the Bible, studying your word, going around helping your neighbors, others, checking on your neighbors, working in the garden, foraging for food. There's so much you can do. So much you can do. that will take up your time. Here's another quote that I would like to read to you, a couple of quotes actually. Manuscript releases 76, 1905. It's over 100 years ago. It says, let children no longer be exposed to the temptations of the cities that are ripe for destruction. The Lord has sent a warning and counsel to get out of the city. Then let us make no more investments in the cities. Fathers and mothers, how do you regard the souls of your children? How much value are they to you is our question basically. Are you preparing the members of your families for translation into the heavenly courts? Are you preparing them to become members of the royal family? Is that what you're trying to do? Children of the heavenly king. What shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? How will ease and comfort, convenience compare with the value of your souls, of your children? Another quote, this is another one, March 30, 1903, General Conference Bulletin. If we place ourselves under objectionable influence, can we expect God to work a miracle to undo the results of our wrong course? Can we? No, indeed. Get out of the cities as soon as possible. And purchase a little piece of land where you can have a garden, where your children can watch flowers growing and learn from them lessons of simplicity and purity. Brothers and sisters, this was written 100 years ago, over 100 years. Why are so many of us still in the cities? Me being in the country and never being in the city, it's hard for me to understand why so many of our people would still be there. Apparently, the pastors are not teaching their children, their people to move out or something, or it doesn't mean anything to them. It doesn't mean more to them than it did back in Ezekiel when they said, we'll not follow what the Lord has told you. You're just telling us stories. Is that what's going on? I don't know. Brothers and sisters, I am fearful for you. I do not know how much more time we have. I know there's a lot of rumors out there of gas shortages, of diesel shortages, which will create gas shortages because gas is brought in by diesel. Possible stores no food no more within months, maybe. Some are saying we could be out of diesel by Thanksgiving. I just find it hard to believe that it'd be that quick. But we know it is coming. The day is coming. We don't know how much time we have. I do not want to scream gloom and doom, but brothers and sisters, are you ready? Are you prepared? Are you going to be able to stay warm? Are you going to have enough food to keep you through the winter? Don't go just hoard and pile up big time, but get some food on hand. Go buy bulk if it's still available. Potatoes keep well. A lot of vegetables keep well. Here's one more quote. Privation may be the lot of every soul who now believes and obeys the truth. Christ has told us that we will have reproach. If persecution for the truth's sake is to come, it is important that every line of work become familiar to us, that we and our families may not suffer through the lack of knowledge. We can and should have tact and knowledge in trades, in building, in planting, and in sowing. How many of you have knowledge in planting and sowing? Leave alone the others. A knowledge of how to cultivate the land will make rough places much smoother. If you have the knowledge, it'll be so much easier for you. This knowledge will be counted a great blessing even by our enemies. 19 MR 22, page 22, paragraph 2. Brothers and sisters, I'm troubled that our people are still in the cities. It really does bother me. What are we waiting on? I fear for our people. I am afraid for our people. I know that I'm not as prepared as I could be. I know that if this all goes down, I would struggle a little, but I know with the knowledge that I have that I could survive. And I want to help everybody that I can. I want to do everything for everybody that I can. Please, please. Please consider, are you ready? What if it does come in a couple of months from now? What if the grid does go down? I don't know that it will. I have no idea that it will. I'm going to open up for questions now. I could have done more, but I'm going to open up for questions.
Hey,
Great.
Moses. Thank you. Go ahead.
Great presentation to Brother Moses. It's the first time I have seen your presentation and it's wonderful. Yeah, I'm sure we're going to have a lot of questions, coming in.
I see there's pop-ups in the bottom.
Yeah. What is someone, do you feel like the bees are dying? Someone put that.
Well, I don't know. I know that a lot of bees did die, but I got bees this spring and they did well this summer. So I know that a lot of bees died, and I don't know that I have the answer why they died. There's a lot of rumors out there. I know that I've been fighting more with the Varroa mite. They've been taking out some, they took out some of my bees a couple of years ago, but I'm not sure that, I do know that some of our people said they don't see any honeybees in the area, but I don't know. That's a very good question. Sorry, I wish I could answer that, but I know mine did well this summer.
That's interesting. You should say that, especially with the bees. Hi, Moses. We met in Oregon camp meeting. I'll tell you later. The with the bees. So did you get local bees or did you you did get local bees? Okay.
Yes. There's a local guy here. He actually keeps them over in this area over the winter, and he winters them over, and he keeps them in the area. And in the spring, he does nukes. And so I got 3 nukes from him this summer. And I had gotten some several years ago. I had lost them, but this summer they did very well. We had a good year. We had a lot of moisture, and flowers did well. So I was very blessed with them.
Amen. Amen. I see that we have a question in the chat, which I'm going to address, have you address, and then we have 2 hands up. And so real quick, I see that the question is, what is the best manual well hand pump to use if the existing well is about 250 feet deep?
There is, again, you go to Stoves and More LLC. Daniel will be able to help you. He'll use the same. I went through him because I'm not a dealer. You have to be a dealer to buy these simple pumps. It's called. You can easily go that deep. They pull hard enough that you got to do a little work to get the water up, but you can get water. But I would recommend going through him. You may have to call him and leave a message. He will get back to you, but he has a lot of people calling him at this time. And you may go a day or 2, but leave a message. I actually tried calling him a couple of times, and his phone was full. Messages were full. You just keep calling. Tells me just keep calling. I will get to you. And he tries to go through them, but you'll have to go through a dealer to get these pumps. They will not sell them outright. And those will go alongside an existing pump, and you can go up to 300 feet. But after that, you're going to work hard to get water.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you on that. Let's go with Margaret S. Margaret S.
Hi.
Hi.
I've not read Country Living throughout. I've seen bits and pieces of it, to be honest. But I always wonder if anybody knows how far out the city we should be, because at the moment I'm only like 15 minutes drive. It is very rural, but I do have to go into the city daily for just day-to-day living, and it's the difference is quite vast, to be honest. Just where I am, just driving 15 minutes, but it's not my property, so I am looking for my own. Yeah,
very good. And I think it's time that we look for our own. I don't know how much, like I said, I don't know how much, but you are out in the country, which is very, very good. Even though you got to commute to town to work, you have your property, and if the city gets shut down, this is what I recommend. The Lord may bless the people that own the property that you're renting from. He may allow you to live there. He may be blessing you, but try to get some food on hand at least. Try to figure out a way how you can survive a little bit better if things do go down soon. Now, somebody asked where it says our bread and water will be sure. That is absolutely correct. But my question to you is, if you don't do anything and you see, it's just like when you live in the South and you see a tornado coming, you could say, I'm going to stay sitting in my living room. The tornado is not going to protect me. God said that he is going to take care of us and protect us. Is that what you would do? I don't think any of you would do that. When you see something coming that you know there's a possibility of not being able to buy food and so forth. Sister, you got to remember when Sister White wrote this, she had over a year's supply of food on hand. When she wrote that quote, she had over a year's supply of food on hand. There is a time coming later, and I believe that's when the death decree goes out, and we will be led by angels, as Spirit of Prophecy tells us. They will take us by the hand like they did Lot to a similar experience. They will take us out into deep, secluded areas, and they will hide us there. There, our bread and water will be sure. We have no way of raising food there. We have no way of canning or doing anything like that. So that'd be my understanding.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that response. Thank you, Margaret, for that question there. Whoops, sorry. Margaret, ignore that. Still on mute. Let's go with Claire.
Yes, thank you. My question is, I remember speaking to one family and telling them we have to store food for when the time comes. And their response was, why would we store food when the other people that don't have food know that we have food? They're going to rob us anyway. They're going to take it away from us. So what's your response to that?
There is going to be a time. Sister White says, I wish I'd put that quote down, but something to this effect, that if we hoard food, our enemies will come and take it with force. Now, like I had said earlier, do your research on hoarding. This is what I found. When we hoard food, we do have, it's with the intent that nobody else will benefit from it. That is hoarding. Now, what if your neighbors know that you got food and you try to hide it from them? They will get hungry enough. A hungry bear is a dangerous bear. But what if your neighbor is hungry and you know they're hungry and you were to take food over to them and feed them? We know that when the Indians, the Native Americans here, the white settlers came in, the people that tried to fend off them were most always killed. But the people that befriended them, took them in, fed them, became their friends. They protected them. And I believe this has got a lot to do with it. But if you look at that quote where she says that they'll take it by force, it is where when you're trying to protect yourself. Don't try to protect yourself. Look at the widow of Zarephath. She had a little bit of flour and a little bit of oil. How long did it last? We might not have enough food to last a year. Some of us might not have more than a month of food and we were unable to get more. Still share. Share with the people. Share with your neighbors. Be a witness. Be a testimony. God is the one that multiplies. We know that over in Ukraine in the war, there was a bunch of Adventists that were down in the basement, men that could not leave because they were at the age of where the men had to stay there. They were trapped in the basement of this house. They had a couple of packages of cookies and some water. Those cookies and water lasted for quite a long time. There was not even possible that they could have eaten that many meals, and they still weren't all. When you're in a situation where you cannot get more, we serve a living God that will take us through. But when we have the opportunity and the privilege to do what we can, I believe God puts a responsibility on us.
Thank you. Thank you for that answer. In fact, I want to add to that, because when you said share, you have to look at it in the aspects of love your neighbor as yourself.
Yes.
And when you look at it in the aspects of love your neighbor as yourself, and then you compare it to even if it's your enemy.
Yes.
And Jesus literally is saying, how did you treat your enemy?
Yes.
How did you treat that stranger that was in the midst of you? And so, yeah, I love the answer. All right, let's go with Yvonne. Yvonne.
Awesome presentation. You know, you've often wondered, what do I do when I'm supposed to flee to the mountains? Well, I've got to start getting me a bicycle and riding. But I wanted to ask you a question. So thank you for that. You wonder about transportation, and we often forget about the simplest of things that God has given us.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you if you have ever used a rain barrel system for water catchment.
Yes, I grew up that way. My parents had, it wasn't a barrel, but it's a hand dug cistern that was laid up with a brick and mortar. And our roof, this was of course in the state of Missouri, and all the eaves were funneled into a went through a filter system. I don't remember what it all was, but I remember it was about 2 feet square and about 3 feet tall. I remember my father cleaned it out one time. I know there was charcoal in there. I know there was gravel, pea gravel, and I know there was sand, and I don't remember what else all was in it. But it went through there, and that's what we drank, because a lot of the water in that area was not good. People didn't drink it hardly because it just tasted nasty. So that's what we drank for water. But it went through that filtration system first, and I would highly recommend, if you want to store water, put it through a filtration system, even just for washing dishes or whatever use you want to do it, unless you want to use it on a garden for irrigation, then you might not have to. But I would highly recommend, there's a lot of different filter systems out there that you can put together. Put a box, get a box and build up your filter system, and let the water flow through there, and then the water is going to be good for you to drink. If you have a barrel, or especially a plastic tank, if you get a white one, you're going to have to cover it up, because if the sun hits it, it causes algae. That even daylight causes it to get algae. So keep it in the dark so you don't get it full of algae. Somebody popped up a question here. Can you store beans in plastic buckets? Yes, beans store well in plastic buckets. You don't even have to get the oxygen out. We have stored beans in plastic buckets for years, and they're still good. As well as wheat. Wheat will keep well in plastic buckets. Wheat is so nutritious. I'm going to give you a little recipe. You might want to go use this. This is what my parents did as we grew up. In the evening, my mother would, I don't remember the exact amount per person. I mean, we were a large family with us, like with the 13 of us, 11 children and parents. My mom would maybe take a quart. I don't remember, but maybe take a quart of wheat berries, put them in water like you do beans. I don't think she used that much. But anyway, you have to experiment how many you can eat. Put it in water, soaked it overnight. And the next morning, she put it on the stove and boiled it for about 20 minutes. It stays a little bit chewy. You can never get it really, well, maybe you cooked it long enough. It stays slightly chewy, but we loved it. And she always put a little pinch of salt in it and just a little bit of sweetener. We loved it. Very nutritious, very nutritious. And I don't know how it affects people that are gluten intolerant, but we liked it so much. And it was very, very simple. It was one of the simplest meals you could make. It was just take that wheat in the evening, put it in soak. Next morning, boil it. You got breakfast.
Thank you. And I love the comment that's made in the chat there. There's both a spiritual and physical preparation.
Yes.
Let's go with Jeffrey's iPhone.
Yes. Hello, Brother Moses.
Hey, how's it going, brother?
Going well. I actually have two questions for you.
Yes.
One question, what would be your response to individuals who may be single and don't have children, and they're calling to move out of the city to the country?
That's a very good question. It would be hard for them to live alone in the country. If there'd be some family that would be willing to, live on their property in a little cabin or something, that would be really nice. Seems to me like, because they try to buy a property of their own, it would be hard for them to live alone. I guess it's something that person would have to look into, figure out what you could do. But my suggestion is if you could find a family that would have a property, you could have a cabin or a trailer or something on there and just live there and come and go as you do. So you don't have to be alone, maybe help along with the garden or whatever and get some food or whatever,
Right. Okay. My other question is, while in the country, what would be the ideal way to obtain trades?
Okay. Say you're working from your own home. Well, my sons, they do construction, and I know you do also a lot of different things, some different things in the construction area line. That's a good trade. I don't know how long construction is going to last. If the thing goes south as it could, those things are going to come to a screeching halt very quickly. And when that time comes, that things go south, we're not going to be looking for work. We're going to be taking care of ourselves, sustaining ourselves, and being out there for our neighbors, finishing that last gospel message where the latter rain is poured out, where the people are hungry and thirsting, and it's going to be the very last end of all things. We're going to be so busy, I believe, that we won't have time to work no more. And it'd be really good if we could be out of debt and don't have debts. We don't have to worry about that, because I don't believe that time is going to be very long, maybe a year or two that we have. And then I think things are going to get worse very quickly. And
Oh, Brother Moses, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Regarding, like there's a place called, I think it's called Calamas or something, Indian Center. Like they have a training program, I think, for teaching how to build tiny homes. I don't recall the specific name, but it's like it's almost like a carpentry program or something. Now, is it bad to if someone could try to get enrolled in that type of program because they're not Adventists, they're Indians, and of course they may have a waiting list because they prioritize their own tribe, but to learn, because there's not really, when I look, and I have looked in California and Washington, they don't really have Adventists teaching these type of skills that I'm aware of in local areas in Washington state.
I don't know about that, but there are places and people that will educate. There are even some schools. I'd be careful what school I'd send my children to, which will teach a lot of different classes like gardening and so forth. I know Red River is a good one, but I'd be very careful where I'd send my children, because they can be deprogrammed from the truth that they already know if you're not really careful. And I don't want to say too much, but I don't know about that program, but that might be a good one. Somebody had asked me, something had popped up. Oh, somebody had put up a question. Doesn't Spirit of Prophecy, don't we have a quote that says the elderly will be working with the young, or however it was? I believe that is the way it should be. That's the way I grew up doing. We would take care of our elderly. We would never put them in nursing homes. What was that last pop-up that was here? It went away. I can't remember what it was.
That, you mean the one that's about how about security and safety on the countryside?
Yes. How about security and safety in the country? Maybe I shouldn't tell you. I am not afraid about the country. We cannot even lock our house.
I get that.
Our cars have the keys in them.
Yeah.
Don't come take them away.
That's funny you should say that, Moses, because where we're at, we have a very friendly, nice Amish community around us, and
Yes.
it's the same. Yeah. I've had some conversations where I'm like, okay, the guy who just passed away earlier this year, when I met him last year, he looked at me funny because I drove up in my vehicle and I locked it, and he said, "What are you afraid of? We're not going to take anything." So, yeah.
We never locked our horse and buggies.
The horse always knows how to go back home. Knows his way back home.
In fact, I got to watch myself going to town. I will walk away, leave my car unlocked. I try not to, because I don't want to tempt people.
True. Very true. All right. Narrow way life. Go ahead and ask your question.
Oh, good evening.
Good evening.
I actually wanted to agree with a lot of what Brother Moses was saying. We live in the country in St. Lucia, and we sometimes don't even lock the house when we go to sleep, or the keys stay in the vehicle the same as. I remember there was one time some guy who was not from the area actually stole some of our stuff, and he had to bring it back the next day when we prayed and asked God for it. So trust me, God is your security in the country, and you don't have to worry as much as you'd sometimes do about that when you're in the city. The other thing that I wanted to comment on a question that somebody asked, we're preparing not for ourselves, we're preparing to also, when we bring in the gospel, that
Yes.
we can bring people home and say, hey, this is how we God has asked us to live. And when they accept the gospel and they didn't prepare, we can take them in.
Yes.
Here we have, in our ministry, have helped a young family connect with an older single person who has no kids, to connect with each other, and they live on the same property. And the younger family can help out and be in the garden and do that type of stuff. And they're both not originally from St. Lucia. One came from overseas and decided to move to the island for country living, and we're able to connect them with another family who's actually on island that they could live together. God has a way of providing for every single person who says they want to
Yes, he
move,
does.
whether it be finances. And if you know our story, we moved in the country the first time with not a cent.
Mm-hmm.
And God was able to provide a location for us to live on. We built our own home. And one of the other sisters were asking, how can we learn to build? For those persons who want to learn how to turn maybe even raw land from raw land to a country homestead, we're going to be doing a series on that very, very soon. And we want to have it online because we know a lot of persons don't have the skill. And we did it the first time where we were, and God has given us another property, and we're going to do the same on that. So my husband, who's in construction and he's builder, he's going to be literally building the home for people to see with our own hands, with myself, my son, who is 9 years old currently. And it is something that everybody can learn. And what we will try our best to do is see how we can have it online so that persons experience what it is. And if you decide you want to come down and visit, like some of them from the US do sometimes, or the UK, come and visit when we're building, and you learn firsthand how to build. My husband is still looking for students all on the island, looking for people who want to learn the trade, learn to gardening. He wants people to come and learn as much as possible, because the more you know, the less you need. So just sharing a little bit, and thank you so much, Brother Moses, for sharing that insight.
You're welcome.
Right there.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Narrowway. Okay, so before we go to our next question, Diane, you are next on the floor here, but there was a question in the chat. What did I?
Oh,
just
I saw
in
that.
there.
I didn't get to read it. I have my glasses on quick enough.
Oh, I got you.
Go ahead.
What about bearing arms for protection from wildlife attacks?
Well, there's a big controversy amongst some of our brothers and sisters concerning arms. We grew up as Amish. We would never, ever, we would not believe that we were ever to use an arm to defend ourselves or to kill mankind. But we always had, pretty much everyone had at least a 22. And just for rabid animals and things like that. And you go back and look at Sister White's quotes. She talks about James having a gun to take care of the wild predators and the like the coyotes, and I think she mentions coyotes and the predators that would come and kill your animals. Personally, I think we should, especially to live in an area where those are around. So, yes, somebody has asked, is this recorded? I don't have the answer. Don't know is it recorded or not.
Yes, it's recorded. It's recorded. That we'll give you the details on that at the end of the program.
Okay. Yes.
But yeah, the wild animals, that's especially the bears and the crazy coyotes. Wow.
Yes.
Don't you have a good coyote story for us?
Oh, I could, but our time is going fast.
Yes, it is.
Somebody just asked, how far should you be from the city? You know, this is what I would tell everybody. Ask God. We live like an hour north of Spokane. We're out in the country. I mean, we could go more rural yet. We could go up into the mountains where we're really secluded. We live in a kind of open valley. We got farmland where right now we're raising wheat and stuff to help our neighbors and so forth. This year our wheat did not do well, but I do farming, I do hay and so forth. We feel very comfortable there. We're not in the city. We're not even in the suburbs of the city. We're still in the country. I don't know that there is a limit how far you need to be from the city, but be in the country. What she says, where you can raise your own food. You look at the quotes. I have never seen a quote that tells us how far to be out, but she continually uses this quote over and over, where you can raise your own food and so forth.
You know, I'm gonna add something to that. I would say if you're going to be out in the country, be close enough but far enough where it's comfortable for you to go to the city.
Yes.
To witness.
Yes, she talks about that. We're to go to the city, so we don't want to be too far out.
Yeah, you don't want to be like 2 hours, and I'm just using that arbitrarily, but yeah.
Yes.
You get the point from there.
Yep.
We're going to take these last two questions. Let's go with Diane.
Yes, good evening. Thank you so much, Brother Moses, for the presentation. Yes, I just have a comment concern. You mentioned that as a single person,
yes,
they should try to maybe get a family member or someone to have a trail or something on the property. Now, my concern is if you have a family member who is not believing, a non-believer or someone, my understanding is that you do not want such a person to be there on the property, because they will, when the time comes and they're turning people in and people turning against you, your very person who's on the property with you would do that.
Yes. I guess I was thinking more about, say we got an single Adventist brother that's living in the city and wants to come out and just, has a hard time being able to, doesn't want to live on his own property or buy a property for himself. If we could help somebody like that, that's what I was kind of alluding to.
Yes, but if you don't have anyone like that, you're single, you have no one that you feel comfortable that, I'm just looking, you're saying it's hard to live out there, but it's hard for single people, but I think we just have to trust the Lord, that the Lord will make a way, and we have to just step out on faith, because it is what it is. If you're single, you're single, but you can't sit there and wait and hoping that, someone's going to come along and then whether that person is going to be in for believe what you believe.
Yes, very true. Well, start asking around. Know of somebody that does live in the country, and just ask them, is there any way that I could maybe live in a trailer on your property? I want to get out of the city. I'm sure you probably can find somebody, a brother or sister that has the same beliefs that we do.
Very true. Very true. Let's go with Donette. Are you there?
Yes.
There we go. Ask your question, please. Oh, I think she muted herself. Let's try that again. One more time.
Thank you. How are you? Brother Moses, actually, I heard your voice over on Mission to Save the Children with the Chancalaman days about a week or so ago. And so I just somehow got on this website. But anyway, I am a single mom. I'm a teacher. Got almost 20 years in, and I have 2 kids. One is in college, one is graduated college and is a nurse. I need to move. I have a house, it's a nice house, modest house, but a nice house in New York. And I'm not sure where to look. I feel like I've been praying about it. I don't know where to look, but I need to find a place to go. I'm, again, unmarried, so it's just me and my kids. And of course, if my mom wanted to come, she can come as well. But I'm not sure what areas you think in New York or Pennsylvania or West Virginia would be a good place to even start looking. I prefer to live near the Amish since they know a lot, and hopefully maybe I can learn from them if they're willing to teach me. There's things I need to learn I don't know. I don't have a garden. I've never done that at all, but I have a house with a lot of equity in it. I'm concerned I'm going to be stuck with this house and won't be able to sell it very soon. What's your
You know, I don't have the answer to where you could go, but I'm going to say this much.
Yep.
The Amish, as of yet, are very friendly. They're very friendly to the Adventists. They struggle with the Sabbath issue, but what a better way if you could get close to them
Yeah.
and be a witness there. Don't try to hit them over the head with the Sabbath. They already know that we believe the Sabbath, but be a very good friend to them and try to, just listen to me, try to dress in a way that is not provocative to them.
Amen.
And they will. I mean, I tell you what, if you come out dressed nicely with the sisters wearing either skirts or dresses, when you come out there, there's so few people that dress that way today. If you come out to them and show interest in them, they will accept you very readily.
And one more thing, so I don't really have a ministry. I mean, I'm a teacher. I teach, I'm a grade 7 through 12 teacher, teach English. I don't really have a ministry. I'm not sure what I would do, in the country also. My son is still in college. He is about, I want to say, a year and a half left.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what I would do. So.
That is, I understand that very much, because that's why so many of our city people are still in the city. They have no idea what they would do once they go to the country. But that's another thing. If you go to the country and you're not too far from the city, there are people that our church here, pretty much everybody's living in the country here, but a lot of them still have jobs in the city. They drive 45 hours commute every morning and every evening to go to work. At the same time, they're prepping their property, they're putting everything down, they're getting ready. So once things get cut off, that they have a place to live. And some people may have to do that, because I'm just gonna be honest with you, at this time, unless you have a greenhouse and raise a lot of microgreens or things that you can sell, it's gonna be almost impossible to make money and to sustain yourself on a farm.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. I totally get that. On that note, and I saw that, when they were talking about dress going, yeah, that's a very true statement. And someone put reform dress, not the way that brothers and sisters dress when you go to a normal church today, but what it says in the Bible in the Spirit of Prophecy, that sort of dress.
Yes, you don't have to go back to the old reform dress that Ellen White did. Just wear a nice skirt, and if you want to wear a jumper, that's fine, but wear a nice skirt. Women coming in pants to the Amish. I'm sorry, I'm Amish, I was born and raised Amish. You have no idea how offensive that was to us when we first started keeping the Sabbath. Just wear a nice skirt. Don't wear it, wear it a little bit below the knees, at least, maybe 4 inches or so.
Yeah.
And then keep the neckline not too low. They don't like that. Just be covered. It does not have to be the reform dress. It does not have to be a jumper. Just wear a skirt.
Modest.
If you want to wear a skirt, be dressed modestly. That's all.
Modest. That's the word, modest dress. I like that. So, all right. So Moses, don't disappear just yet. I know you are running out of time. In fact, remember I said you and I've met before.
Are you Ernest?
No, I am Fred. Brother Fred.
Where did we meet?
Camp meeting. I'm the guy who was flying the drone up in Oregon, was helping.
Oh, you were there at Brother Brandon and Gene Cunningham's. I know who you are.
Yes.
Okay, I recognize your voice now.
Yeah, when Sister Shorter was introducing you on the cooking, I'm like, hey, I know that guy. It's like they really do a really good job with preparing meals for camp meetings. And so on that note, Sister Shorter or Sister Rowe, are you there?
I think somebody had popped something up on the screen here. I didn't catch it in time.
It says Sister Shorter can help with guidelines and prayer call for, I think that's a information on the dress.
Okay, good enough.
Yeah. Sister Shorter, there you go.
Yes, Brother Fred, I'm here. listening intently. It was an awesome presentation, very thorough, and covered all the bases. Thank you so much, Brother Moses.
You're welcome.
I know I need to speak to him about the water filter,
Sure.
but that's another time.
Yeah.
Brother Fred, did you want to announce, I sent you a text where how they can find the recordings? Sister Rowena is taking care of that with Brother Dan, our audio video person. And hopefully we should have them up sometime this week. I was hoping we'd get them up today, but all the recordings will be on our YouTube channel.
And that YouTube channel is the Homeward Publishing Ministries.com.
Yes.
Excellent. Excellent. I'll put that in the actual chat.
Okay.
What else do we have? Wait a minute, is there one more presentation tonight?
No, this is it. This is
the last presentation, Moses. Wow.
That's right. Yeah, we've had a lot of people, just over 100 people stayed right to the end. So praise the Lord.
Amen.
People are hungry and thirsty for the truth and to know how to prepare for what's coming. Everybody knows, even the people in the world know that we're on the verge of a stupendous crisis.
Yes.
And many do not know what to do because they're not teaching, sharing these things in our churches. So thank the Lord for these lines that are promoting the truth for this time, the present truth, where we can learn and study and pray together and prepare together.
Amen.
So, Brother Fred, would you like to have our closing prayer? And we just thank you again, Brother Moses, would you like to leave any contact information, Brother Moses?
Yeah, you could. I don't have a ministry name. I'm just a nobody.
Just a nobody that's somebody.
You want to put my phone numbers down, you can put my house number down if you want to, which is 509.
Hold on. I don't know if we can do that on
What
the
about your
actual
email?
recording. Let's do the email.
Yeah.
Yes, you can use my email.
Yeah.
You got it, Sister Shorter, don't you?
Uh,
Or you want me to just give it to you?
yes, please.
It's like the Book of Psalms. Everything is lowercase. PSALMS 5118@yahoo.com.
There we go.
Okay.
That is correct.
Okay.
Wow, it's so glad to see. It's good to see him again. It's been at least 3 years. I want to say it's been at least 3 years.
Yeah, I believe you're right.
Wow. Has it been 2? August 2020. There it is.
Okay.
My wife is telling me in the background it was August 2020.
Okay. I never met her. I didn't get to meet her.
All right. So on that note, let's go ahead and close in prayer. Actually, I would like to pass the honor to Moses. Can you close us in prayer?
Sure. Father in heaven, we come before you, Father. You know, my heart is burdened for my brothers and sisters that are still in the cities. I'm so afraid for them. And Lord, I know that they're going to be probably coming, many of them coming like Lot came out of Sodom and Gomorrah with the clothes on their back, the very last minute. Father, help us to be ready to receive them as they come. Lord, please put an urgency upon their hearts right now that it is time to get out, that they wouldn't need to go like that, that they would move before it's too late. Lord, help us all to be ready to be here for them when they come, to give them courage. We know that it's hard. I've been working with people that have left the city. I know it's hard for them, Father. The transition is so hard. They're not prepared for the hardship that comes along with moving to the country. So Father, prepare their hearts and minds that they will go through it, no matter how hard the hardships will be, because this is the only way that I can see that we can have a little bit longer time here in being able to reach those that are not yet ready to receive the message, Father. I'm afraid once we're trapped in the cities, we'll be destroyed with the cities, Father. It's very discouraging for me to think of that. So please, Lord, I believe it's very urgent, whether we have 2 months, whether we have 2 years, whatever it is, Father, that they would get out, please. And bless all these meetings that have been going on before us here, Father, and as the recordings, that they would be in a manner of way that people will be encouraged by them. Just use us all to be your witness and example. And we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Are we ready for our theme song as we close out?
We are ready for our theme song.
Okay.
You have the floor.
I'm just going to play the recording.
Do you want me to just play the recording from here?
You can, yes, that would be great.
All right. I say that, and the play button now doesn't want to work. Technology.
Okay, I'll try it from here again. And this is, will you be faithful? And the words, would you put those up on the screen, Brother Fred?
I will stand by.
Okay, did we lose sound?
I think we
so.
did. I thought it was just my internet connection. This is the blessings of country living.
You want to sing the last verse?
Thank you, Sister Shorter, for such a wonderful meeting, and all our speakers. It has been a joy to hear these programs.
Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. It's a pleasure to be on again with you and with all those who have been so faithful to stay tuned in for so long. We have been on this line for what, how many hours? Almost 5 hours.
Mhm.
The Lord be praised.
We have Rumi. Rumi, did you want to say something?
This is her husband. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I was just saying, I didn't catch Moses Schrock's email. It was Psalms in small case letter, and then he said something, then 118@yahoo.com.
Yep.
What
So-
was right after Psalms?
5118.
Yes.
Okay, so Psalms 5118@yahoo.com. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right. And on that note, we want to thank everyone for joining us this evening. This is our last night for the presentations, but tune in. Is there a program this coming up Sabbath?
Yes, there is.
There we go. There's the lead in.
Mhm. Please join us at 5:30 on Sabbath. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
God bless.
Good night.
Good night. For those who did not get the Elijah book, you will get it through Homeward Publishing Ministries or MMHelpline at